Alright guys, welcome to Wednesday Night Legacy from Lost Legion Games and Comics in South Charleston, West Virginia. My name, as always, is Zachary Evans, and we're already into round one action. 4 rounds of Swiss tonight. We've got on the left stream regular Alec Myers. He is playing a blue-white Miracles deck that splashes red for some sideboard cards. And his opponent is Joseph Messer, who's playing an Affinity deck that is playing Tezzeret. So, classic battle of aggro versus control, even in the confines of Legacy. Somebody's attacking with little creatures and somebody's trying to cast Wrath of God. So yeah guys, we normally broadcast a standard Affinity stream each week, but due to some complications last week and going out of town this week, not having an Affinity stream. So I figured if nothing, we'd try to stream this week's Wednesday Eternal format. We alternate on Wednesdays between Legacy and Modern, and this week it is Legacy. So we saw a turn 1 Signal Pest and Mimnite from Joseph. It's going to start applying pressure. And he casts a turn 2 Stoneforge. His deck plays 2 copies of Stoneforge, basically as your 5th and 6th copy of Cranial Plating, but Alec choosing to force that, as it is one of the more important cards in this matchup. Cranial Plating clearly the best card in the Affinity deck. Why is it? I do have the labor on. There we go, much better. So Alec resolving a Vendilion click mid-combat here, showing the importance of sequencing here, as if Joseph had to cast his Edge Champion before combat, he would have been able to resolve that. It's one of the more difficult cards for most blue-white based Legacy decks to deal with. Obviously the Miracles deck, playing Sweepers, has a much better spot against it, but mid-combat Vendilion click takes out Signal Pest in combat, pushes the etched champion to the bottom. And then Joseph slowly trying to rebuild here, only with 2 Mimnites. There we see a Springleaf Drum, see an Ancient Tomb in his hand, which helps power out turn 2 Tezzerets, but still drawn for business here. Mimnite beatdown plan is not the way this deck is drawn up, that's for sure. Oh, did he discard the champion? The S champion goes on the bottom. Alright, we fixed that. You have to apologize, guys. There are, we do have about, I'd say, a half dozen kind of Legacy regulars, but we do have some newer players to the format, so we try to scrounge up decks for them, and so that we can play. Both of these guys are actually playing decks that they have borrowed on the night, so there might be instances like that where we have some unfamiliarity with cards, but easy enough. So there is Master of Ethereum, which is as large as the number of artifacts that Joseph has. He currently has 8 of them, so this is the kind of card that we will be Swords to Plowsharing, I would imagine. We see there is a it's also an Anthem effect. We see a Terminus in Alec's hand, and he draws the swords off the top, so in a pretty good spot here. Only down to 11 life. No platings to be seen. We've already shoved an Etched Oracle. We're going to be able to deal with this Master of Ethereum. And Joseph slowly running out of business. Did he draw another Master here? I think he did, so we're going to cast that pre-combat to get the Anthem effect. I'm sure this is going to resolve, but the active one is going to get plowed here. Joseph going to gain 1 billion life. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So Joseph going to go up to 26. But because of the second Master, 23, I guess I had the count wrong. Because of the second Master, those Midnights still attacking for 2. So there is still a 2-turn clock on board. And there is the 6th land, so Alec's going to go fetch and hardcast this Terminus here. It's going to go down to 5 to do it, but this version of Tezzeret's not playing Galvanic Blast, so Alec doesn't have to be too worried about reach at this point. So Alec going to fetch up 2 lands so that he can pay for that spell. And Joseph drawing an etched oracle, or etched, I'm going to say oracle, just in the same way I always say burning tree shaman, I'm going to say etched oracle every time. But Joseph with an etched champion off the top here. Alec down to 2 cards in hand, one of which I think is a Flooded Strand. I do not know what the last card in his hand is. So Cranial Plating should be a win here. Looks like he drew a Signal Pest. So we're going to get in for 2 there. Knock Alec down to 3. Then play the Signal Pest. It's a Spell Pierce. Is it a Jace? Jace will be good enough here. If it was a Jace, he can bounce the Signal Pest and buy a turn. Alec is going to cast a targeted Jace there, it looks like. Oh, I forgot to give him the dice. Sorry. Gotta get our stream dice. So the Jace effectively fogs or buys Alec another draw step here. So he'll drop to 1. Replay the Signal Pest. Not sure what the last card Joseph drew was. A Mystic. So now every creature that Joseph draws is effectively lethal. There's an irrelevant Spell Pierce in Alec's hand. He needs, we're going to brainstorm here at a minimum. We're going to brainstorm here, try to find the one of Supreme Verdict that's in the main deck. Maybe hope to find a top and a Terminus, or brainstorm and a Terminus, so we can answer on Joseph's turn here. We're putting 2 cards back and couldn't see what he drew, but looks like we're drawing live at least here. And there is a brainstorm, so we go 1 card deeper. Alex sitting just high enough on the camera that can't see him. See what he draws. There's a top. So if the top card is a Terminus, Alec is still live here. So Alec passing back, not sure if he's just making Joseph play it out, or there's a Terminus sitting on the top of his deck. So we'll see how it goes here. Joseph going to equip. Oh, he's going to cast the plating, I should say, which he searched for. Could put that on the Etched Oracle and serve in here. Going to top. Looks like we have a Snapcaster in hand. Not sure that's going to be good enough. And it's not, so the etched champion off the top of the deck is good enough, and Joseph Messer and the Tezzeret Affinity deck moves up a game. So once again, guys, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, we normally stream on Fridays, and normally on Wednesdays I play in these events. We alternate between eternal formats of Modern and Legacy, but this week, because we haven't had F&M stream last week, I missed 2 weeks ago because of Grand Prix Louisville. This week I'm going to be out of town, so we're going to miss that one as well. So I wanted to have some kind of content for you guys. So I appreciate you tuning in on a Wednesday. I know there's a lot of other options, so I appreciate it. So let's put this in a nutshell for everybody watching. We got 12 players out there. 2 of them I didn't even know were going to be in the event. 5 of them are playing decks that I let them borrow out of my backpack. So you've got a lot of casual players. Well, not casual players. You've got at least 2 casual players out there. You've got a lot of guys who are unfamiliar with decks. That's why you see things like you just saw, which is like a Stoneforge Mystic after combat when the cranial plating would have been lethal. That's why you see people forgetting the Vendilion replacement draw effects and putting cards in the discard instead. You're bound to have that, but like a format like Legacy isn't going to grow unless you get people, new players involved. Letting them borrow decks is one of the ways we do that. So brace yourselves. You might see some suboptimal plays at some time, but hopefully we're going to see some good Legacy action tonight. Talked about it before the tournament started, but we'll go ahead and give you a rundown of the decks that are in play. We've got at least 3 copies of Mono Red, which should not be surprising as it is one of the more budget-friendly decks. We've got, I believe, a Reanimator deck. We've got Shardless Bug. We've got Miracles and Tezzeret Affinity, like we see here. We've got a Budget Affinity deck. Also in the mix, we've got a Natural Order Elves deck. I believe Jeremy Bales is playing Booberry, which is it's like a budget Cephalid Breakfast deck, which is a fun combo deck as well. And I think that's the lot of them. So 12 decks out there. Like I said, 2 casual players that showed up late. I'm not sure exactly what they're playing, but should be fun. I'm enjoying watching old cards. There's only so many Burning Tree Emissaries and Domri Rod activations and Sphinx's Revelations that you can commentate about before you want to see some real Magic being played. So we saw Jason of Stoneforge, so our Legacy quota is met. So let's go to the... So thanks to Pablo Gad in the chat saying the quality of the stream is really good with the sound, image, and commentating. First time here and you love Legacy. Well, I would love to bring more Legacy and Modern coverage to you guys. The problem is it's very taxing to record twice a week. Plus, like I said, I actually enjoy playing in the Wednesday events as opposed to the F&Ms, which I don't mind missing at all. But thanks for the kind words. We've tried to improve the quality of our stream over the year and a half that we've been doing this, so I'm glad it is going to good use. So Joseph finds 5 cards he can keep and leads off with a turn 1 Signal Pest. Alec with a turn 1 Sensei's Divining Top. He's going to go ahead and activate it. During his upkeep to fix his draw, I'm pretty sure he kept a 1-lander here. That's usually the telling sign of that when you top in your upkeep. It's interesting too here is the Miracles deck obviously is a countertop deck. We didn't see Counterbalance at all. Counterbalance is very interesting against this against the Affinity deck because a lot of times it's basically dead because by the time Affinity has cast most of their spells, Counterbalance is somewhat irrelevant, especially when you're on the draw. A lot of times on the draw, I side the Counterbalance package out and bring in a ton of sideboard cards here. So it'll be interesting to see if Alex still has that in play. I'm going to say, because this is the first time I think he's played this deck, it would be unlikely that he sides them out. So Joseph lands the turn 2 cranial plating here, and there is the counterbalance. So he did leave it in. So basically, Joseph might not resolve any more spells for the rest of the game, but he's resolved the most important one, cranial plating. And unless Alec has a Swords to Plowshares here, he's going to be taking at least a reasonable amount of damage here with 3 artifact lands plus the creature and the plating itself. So attack for 5 here, pending 4 turn clock by itself. And we're going to swing in there for 5 damage. Okay, so Alec is willing to shuffle away his top here to Swords to Plowshares. The Sword to Plowshares, the Signal Pest. It's interesting that he let him do that, let him equip and then attack. So Joseph going to gain 5 life as opposed to just gaining 0, but In this matchup, the life gain is not necessarily super huge.
Stuff and things are happening.
Hey, bud. Oh, and Alec had a second copy of Top in his hand, which makes that play a lot more easy to stomach. We see another Swords on the top of his deck, so Alec in a pretty good spot here, especially against Joseph when he had to mold a 5. He's basically playing off the top. Yeah, I think he has cards in hand, but I don't think he has a ton of business.
Sweet, I don't know what either of these decks do.
That's your problem because you don't play with real cards, Ian.
I'll play this crappy font.
Of course, join now by Stream Regular. And PTQ Top 24 place, 24th place finisher at the Columbus PTQ that we went to this past weekend. Why is that important? What was the last pace that paid out, Yin?
24th.
24th. So Yin is the...
yeah, it's important if Eric is watching. Which,
Eric was watching. Here he is. Yes. Alcatraz 8. Stream, so it was fun there. We've been doing this stream, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, we've been doing this stream since August of last year. We've met a lot of interesting people. One of those people who's been watching for the duration, Eric Vashano, who's up in Columbus. So we met him there for the first time in person at the PTQ. And then Eric, despite wanting to drop at 1-1, kept playing and met Yin in the final round. And then Yin rared him to death. Off the back of a Stormbreath Dragon, I believe, was the offending mythic.
Both games.
What a jerk. So we've had an appearance here by Jace the Mind Sculptor. We've already started Fate Sealing, which I'm fine with. A lot of times you play Jace and you brainstorm and you start setting your draw up, but I don't know if this is clearly a Jace Ultimate game. You might as well just with no pressure on board try to keep them off creatures. If there's no creature on board, clearly Joseph would have played one if he had one. So you can not only expedite the end of the game, but you can also keep Joseph from drawing business.
So I don't really know what the decks do, like I said, but at this point, isn't it like kind of a lock for Alec having those cards out and then Joseph not having?
Yeah, I would not say it's a lock because Joseph has Tezzeret Agent of Bolus, and that costs 4. There are not a lot of 4s in Alec's deck. With 1 Jace in play, there's only 3 left: a Verdict and 2 Jaces. Okay. So there's a chance that might resolve. And Alec doesn't actually have a way of dealing with the Planeswalker once it hits the board, unless he draws one of his sideboard cards like Pithing Needle or D-Sphere, or he forces it. So you can rip the Tezzeret, and you can +1 it, and then ultimate it the next turn and kill him.
Okay.
That's very narrow and probably wouldn't happen. And at this point, the way that Alec's been filtering through his deck with tops and fetch lands, he probably has a counterspell. But hey, you're telling me there's a chance.
There's still a chance.
Yeah. So it looks like Alec choosing to let the Signal Pest resolve there. Which is usually an indication that you're floating a Terminus or a Swords to Plowshares or something there. Because I'm guessing there's a scenario in which Alec forgets that you can flip the top to counter the Signal Pest, but surely that's not the case, right? I don't see a removal spell in his hand. Like I'm just wondering if he just forgot that you. Oh no, he has a Snapcaster, so we're going to snap. Oh. We're going to snap Swords. We're trying to cast another pre-combat cranial plating. So there's the equip. Alec might as well let it happen because he's going to win with Jace, so the life total is irrelevant. And there it is. So I guess Alec just unwilling to float the top on top since he was going to fetch. There's really no point not to flip the top unless you're concerned with, a more troubling card. But at this point, just keeping any creature off the board seems functional. And he's only drawing 1 creature a turn because the game has gone on long enough with Joseph not playing creatures that he's not sandbagging them for any reason. That'd be the worst possible strategy to not play your win conditions. This Jace the Mind Sculptor card, I'm going to be honest with you, Ian, I think it's going to go places. I think it's pretty good. Watch out for it. out for it. I think it's gonna take off.
Take back off.
So the Snapcaster beatdown portion of the game has begun. So this version of Miracles, I think, is playing 2 Snapcasters, which is a I say I think it's playing 2 because it's my deck. I'm just trying to remember how many are in there. A lot of the more competitive decks will play like Joe Lawsett, who's the godfather of Miracles, plays a Vincer in that spot. I play the Snapcaster simply because in our local metagame, it is much. Snapcaster is just a better. There's just a lot of more aggro decks in mono red, and Snapcaster is better than Vincer, which is better against like show and tell matchups and things like that. Since no one is playing show and tell, because I would be the one playing show and tell, and since if I'm playing Miracles, then I don't have to worry about that. So Jace 2 turns off of Ultimate here. This is the last Fate Seal, and barring Joseph drawing, there's literally nothing in his deck he can come back from this. Nothing in his sideboard that would interact with the Jace activation. No creatures on board. Not going to be able to attack, so we're going to move to a decider here. Joseph was able to steal game 1, but game 2 has... well, are we seeing... speak of the devil. Oh, there was a Jace in the top 3. I'm telling you, there's only 3 4s left in the deck. That was the only card that would have been relevant. And the top again. Alec would know if there's a 2 in there. Looks like there's not a 2. But we know it's irrelevant, because you're just going to untap Ultimate Jace. So we're playing it out. You don't usually get to see it played out, but it is irrelevant. Yeah. Draw this cranial plating. Get there. So game 1 was kind of a grindy match. Alec never established countertop. Had some removal spells, but just didn't have it enough. Resolved a Terminus off the top of the turn. It would be lethal. But Joseph top decked an Etched Champion and rode it to victory. And in game 2, a mulligan to 5 didn't help Joseph at all. But more importantly, an early countertop lock. Swords to Plowshares, a Snapcaster, and our good friend Josh the Mindscraper. Okay, this is interesting. So it looks like the Pithing Needle came in.
Are those all full art Midnights?
Yes. We got a Volt Scourge and 2 Midnights, which is a great opening for Joseph on the play here, especially with Alec leading with basic Island, which means he can't Miracle a Terminus should he draw it.
It does mean that.
So we're going to serve in for 3 here. Knock Alec down to 17, send Joseph back up to 19. Or 219, as I've incorrectly entered into the life total. And is that another Volt Scourge there? Yeah, it has to be. Right in the glare. Looks like he sided in a Terminus, a Pithing Needle, a Disenchant, and the 4th card I do not know, and he sided out a Counterbalance, a Jace, and 2 Force of Wills. I like leaving Force of Wills in this matchup because you really don't have to worry about 2 cards, and it's so fast that a lot of times you don't have the opportunity to Spell Pierce or play a real counterspell. There's a real counterspell in this Miracles deck, which I would not. I would sideboard that out because it just makes your mana so wonky. Like if you can't play a basic. Like it just limits the draws you can keep because basic Island is, or basic Plains is unplayable. But you know what's not unplayable? Turn 3 Miracle Terminus off of Brainstorm. It's interesting there because I think Joseph with a little bit more experience would have kept the Etched Champion in his hand. He did play that out there. While that I think does shorten the clock. I actually don't think it would shorten the clock at all. But don't worry, top deck's an Ornithopter, so we're ready to go.
Yeah.
We have a man to carry some cranial plating if it shows up. Where does the cranial plating go on the Ornithopter? Flavor-wise. It's like, how does a Squadron Hawk carry 2 swords? These are the questions that we're faced with in life, Ian.
A hog can theoretically dual wield swords. Not very well. Plating would go on the wings.
So, so Joseph in a real pickle here. This is the problem with a deck like Affinity. You are kind of all in. You do have some bad matchups. Ironically, a deck like Death and Taxes, which is currently popular, has a certain degree of difficulty dealing with a deck like Affinity, simply because it's kind of a one-for-one deck, and Affinity is capable of overwhelming. But against the control deck, especially the Miracles deck, this far into the game, having access to Miracle Terminus, and now miracling and entreat the angels for 2 angels. With a Snapcaster already on board, looks like Alec is going to get this one, barring some kind of ridiculous fortune from Joseph. I guess our best draws here are Black Mana Source, into Tezzeret, but the Tezzeret's going to die immediately because of the
flying angels.
Yeah, I guess you can chump 1 with the Ornithopter, but sometimes you just have games you're supposed to lose, I guess. Well, Skyfire327 in the chat is pointing out that the pilot of the Ornithopter is the one. So we're assuming that the Ornithopter actually has a pilot. Which, depending upon which art you're looking at, if you're looking at the M11, M12 art, there's a chance that there might be a guy inside that. If you look at the old art, it's like a kite.
Yeah.
So.
I only look at the old art.
And there's Jace. Might as well brainstorm here. And that's going to be it. So we see the power of Terminus. You know, it was good. Terminus good enough to play in standard.